Avriana Patton got a notification on her phone at 9:57 a.m. on a Monday morning, and what she saw prompted her to immediately notify authorities. Her former classmate, Audrey, had sent her an Instagram message indicating that she was at risk for suicide. On her father's advice, she called a suicide hotline, then informed the sheriff's office.
I was just I was just shocked. And initially I was, trying to comfort her. But as soon as I got it, it was just this is strange. Let me send this to my daddy. I screenshot to him. I was like, do I call somebody? He was like, yes. And I was like, okay, who do I call? How do I deal with something like this? So then he was like, call the suicide prevention. And then that's when I started that process of trying to reach out.
I understand, if I'm right, Avriana, they told you to call the local deputy. 10:13 a.m., you call the local sheriff's office. They tell you to call the non-emergency line, which you did immediately. 10:14, 1 minute later, you called the Nashville non-emergency line. They said they'd send someone over. At 3:29, so obviously at many hours later, someone arrives at your home. Of course, the shooting was at 10:13. Yeah, you've done everything you could. I mean, have you spoken to investigators since?
I have.
But what Avriana didn't know is at that exact same moment, Audrey was firing shots with their AR-style rifle and unleashing a massive attack on the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee.
We're coming on the air with breaking news. There has been a shooting at a Christian elementary school in Nashville, Tennessee. Officials from the hospital confirmed 3 children were pronounced dead after suffering gunshot wounds. Authorities say the gunman is also dead. We want to go to NBC.
Audrey Hale was previously known as Audrey Elizabeth Hale. They were born on March 24, 1995 in Nashville, Tennessee to parents Ronald and Norma Hale. She was diagnosed as a high-functioning autistic and was known to be a pleasant person to be around, for the most part. The confusion around the name is because Audrey Hale was assigned female at birth and later changed his pronouns to he, him, and identified as a transgender man, which is how I'll be referring to him for the remainder. According to teachers, Aiden was the most kind, whimsical person to have around. Avriana Patton recalls playing basketball with Aiden at IT Cresswell Middle School years ago.
What was the shooter like at that time when you knew her?
I mean, she was very quiet, very, just shy. With the team, we would let her know, hey, we got your back. We would joke and be like, nobody foul you too hard. We got to see her grow, in her skill on the court. We did really good that year. We went all the way to the city. So it was a really good year for us. And we had a real camaraderie.
And family. When we hear the shooter's parents saying the shooter was under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder, again, police have told us very little, except for they say that the shooter identified as transgender. Were you aware of any of this at any point, or is that all more recent than you would know?
Yeah, that's more. I guess that would be more recent. I wasn't really tapped in like that.
Aiden attended the Covenant School from kindergarten to 6th grade, later going on to a College of Art in Madison, Tennessee. Aiden also received an award for Most Improved in the year 2015, graduated in 2022, and was a promising up-and-coming artist. A teacher, Maria Kalami, taught Aiden for 2 semesters in 2017, and she knew from day one, as Aiden handed in the assignment, that he was a gifted artist. As easygoing as Aiden seemed to be, Ms. Kalami also recalled an episode of a big outburst at such a simple problem as being unable to figure out his password, which was a shining example of their patience, or lack thereof. His art was bright and different, with a childlike quality that so many found refreshing. His classmate Cody said that the two were commercial illustration majors, and that Aiden was exceptionally talented. He described Aiden with a childlike personality, and that he always brought stuffed animals to class. One of his pieces of digital art was even captioned to be a child forever, indicating their fascination with sort of a Peter Pan kind of idea. At 28 years old, Aiden was a freelance graphic artist and liked to spend free time playing video games. According to Aiden's parents, they were only aware of him owning a handgun that he sold, as his mother Norma was against guns and often spoke about how guns should be kept away from schools. Aiden posted something on Instagram on March 13, 2023, after the death of a former classmate, Sydney Sims. Aiden was reportedly infatuated with Sims and was deeply affected when she died in a car crash. On the morning of March 27, 2023, Aiden left home with a red bag. His parents had no knowledge of where he was headed. At 9:57 a.m., he messaged Avriana Patton and explained the post was a suicide note and that he might be on the news. Worried, Patton called her father, the suicide hotline, and the police. But any action being taken would come too late. She also attempted to call Aiden's phone, but there was no answer. At 10:12 a.m., Brittany Grayson, a pediatric surgeon, and her husband, Micah Wilfong, were just pulling out of the school's parking lot. They'd been there speaking about their mission trip to Kenya. They later expressed how much they wished they had stayed just a little bit longer because they could have provided medical aid to the victims of the shooting. But they didn't know what was coming. No one could have known what was coming. Exactly 1 minute later, at 10:13 a.m., Aiden stormed the Covenant School through a side entrance, shooting a hole in the glass door to enter. Aiden shot and killed 3 9-year-olds, the school custodian, the principal, and a substitute teacher who was only there for that day. 6 lives were savagely taken before Aiden could be stopped. Officers were directed inside the building by a staff member who explained they were missing some children after evacuating the building.
Kids are all locked down, but we have 2 kids that we don't know where they are. Okay.
The footage from the police body cam shows officers clearing the first floor as Aiden fires at more of them from a second-story window of the school near a passage connecting the school to the church. Officers Engelbert and Collazo arrived on the scene and without hesitation, with quick, precise, and practiced movement, eliminated the threat. The shooter was finally dead, laying beside the window where moments before had been shooting at the police that were outside. The entire duration of the officer's arrival to terminating the active shooter situation took just under 4 minutes, which is commendably fast and immediate. The quick response and action most likely saved many other lives. But sadly, 6 lives were lost that day, including those 3 9-year-old students. When police raided Aiden's home, they discovered 19 journals, 4 hidden weapons that his parents had no knowledge of, including 2 shotguns. They found cell phones and laptops, as well as suicide notes, 3 folders that contained a manifesto of how the shooting was going to go down. Also included was a map of the school which pointed out entry points. Police have reason to believe that Aiden was going to target a shopping mall next, and then possibly relatives. Football teams honored the slain members of the school by wearing the school decal on their helmets. The fire station that responded to the 911 call closest to the school even had some handmade cards from the 3 students of the Covenant School who had previously visited the station. Killed that day were Evelyn Dickhouse, Haley Scruggs, and William Kinney, all 9 years old. Cynthia Peak, 61, a substitute teacher. Mike Hill, 61, a custodian. And Catherine Kuntz, 60, who served as the head of the school. The journey that took Aiden Hale from the beginning to that day is a complex one, and we may never fully understand the motives behind their actions. However, it is essential to remember that mental health is a serious issue, and we have to create a society that supports and cares for those struggling with mental illness. There is also an argument to be made that access to weapons by someone under a doctor's care for an emotional disorder shouldn't have been able to happen. Aiden Hale had 7 legally purchased guns. People writing this off as some sort of trans identity crisis or a religious prejudice, I believe, are missing the bigger picture. Did this happen because someone was mentally unwell? Yes. Does this highlight a blatant need for some sort of action on gun control in this country? Also yes. Look, I'm not smart enough to have all the answers, but I do know that if we do the same things we've always done, we're going to get the same things we've always gotten. I've heard arguments that talk about the need for teachers to be armed, or for more school resource officers, making it look like the students are walking into a prison. Please understand that more guns is not the answer. We're a country with more guns than anyone in the world, so if more guns kept us safer, we'd be the safest place on the planet. The bottom line is, our children should not be afraid that they're going to be murdered at school, but right now they are. I didn't intend to hop on a soapbox during this story, but I'm also not going to apologize for speaking my mind on this. You don't have to agree with everything I just said, but to be a decent human being, you do have to agree that enough is enough, and something has to be done.